Waiting on Getter. Come on, Getter. Let's refresh it. It's a good day, folks. It's a good day. It's a very good day. All right, let's do this thing. All right, folks, welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. If you like the videos, don't forget to like them, share them far and wide. Of course, subscribe to the channel you are watching right now. And we would very much like it if you would take 2 seconds out of your day to go over to another one. Like if you're on YouTube, go to Rumble. If you're on Rumble, go to YouTube. But everybody should go and subscribe to the different ones. And the best place to follow us and follow along what we're doing is peoplespundit.locals.com. peoplespundit.locals.com. If we run a little bit over, we run a little bit over. I know we got a crazy busy day today. I don't know about you, the rest of you parents out there, but honestly, I can't wait for the kids to be home for school. The school year is almost up. It was a good year over in our household. Both kids had both in school kids had a great year, and looking to wrap it up. I like my children being home, number one. Number two, this is kind of insane to the membrane a little bit. Things are just all over the place, and we really need to take it down a notch. So looking forward to it. No vacation for me this summer. Just too busy. It's an election year. We'll make sure we get that well-needed and deserved rest after when it is done. All right, I have to obviously address this. I got like a million text messages. I did not realize that this was going on. But it looks like for those of us who have followed us for a long time, obviously it is kind of a big deal. All right, so it does look like we're being added retroactively to 538, which is appreciated. Very much appreciated. RCP, I expect to presently. Okay. All right there, folks. I expect to see it presently. If you need anyone that you might have missed that I have not sent you to add to your database, I'd be happy to do so. So I'm being obviously a little bit modest here, but yeah, it is a big deal. Speaking of polls, let's get into it. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 clips I want to run today, all telling a bit of a story. And then I'm going to do something I don't do very often, which is defend the New York Times poll. Because our show is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, sometimes we have to react to something that happened 24 hours ago or 36 hours ago. And then because we're going to do it and it'll be fine because it will roll into what we're looking at today, but more current. All right. So first and foremost, you may have seen me react to this on I did mention it briefly on the show, but here's the clip. I didn't have it. I wanted to play it. I reacted on Twitter to it in response. Tom Bevan saw it, retweeted it because that this is just such a ludicrous claim. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say that it may seem obvious to you, but I don't know why more people aren't saying it out loud. It's very clear to me that Morning Joe is in contact with the White House and they're coordinating together. All right. Every time the White House needs somebody to say something, Morning Joe says it. Every time Morning Joe says it, the White House responds with, and they're both exactly saying what they would need to say in order to push the White House message. So of course the media coordinates with Democrats. We know this, all right? And Democrats out there, come on, you know it too. Let's be real. I'm not saying anything that's like very controversial or novel here. It's true, and we all know it. But let's all accept and acknowledge the world that we live in. It's a rigged system with people, coordinating together, and that includes a uniparty kind of system for sure. But Democrats are the leaders of that system. We know that. Actually, the state is the leader of that system. Always remember that. The state is the leader. And if the state's needs changed and Republicans were suddenly the ones that could fulfill those needs, at some point it would change with them. I would remind you to look back to the era of George W. Bush, right? Right. All right. So let's play this. This started it earlier this week.
Times, Mika, I read the Times every day. And of course, especially because Peter Baker writes for the Times. I want you to take him down after I say this next thing. But the New York Times Siena poll traditionally has consistently slanted toward Donald Trump.
False. Absolutely 100% false. As Tom Bevan put up, he just put up the polls that the New York Times recently polled that is causing all of these heart attacks. All right. That's what he put up. And I said in response that actually doesn't even suffice. That doesn't tell the whole story. And some of the ones that he missed outside of the ones that were done, we can go back to now. So let me go to my feed just so I get it right. I'm trying to be right. I'm trying to be correct. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Iowa 2020, Biden +3. Ohio 2020, Biden +1. Let's just stop for a second. Biden lost both those states by at least 8 points. North Carolina, Biden +3. Another state that's a 5-point miss. He lost by 2. Florida, Biden +3. He lost by nearly 3.4%. That is a big win in the state of Florida. Their national poll, of course, had Biden +9. Biden won by 4. All right, back to Arizona in 2020. Biden +6. Biden won by 0.3%. The RCP average was 0.9. In Georgia, it was a tie with the New York Times, and Biden won by 0.2. So that was like pretty much right on the money. Michigan, Biden +8. Of course, Biden won it by less than 3 points. Nevada, Biden +6. He won it by 2.4. North Carolina, we did. Pennsylvania, Biden +6. He won it by 1.2. Wisconsin, Biden +11. He won it by 0.7. There's a perfect example, by the way, of Wisconsin appearing to be the strongest state for Democrats. And then in the end, that is not the case. Part of that is not part of it. A lot of it has to do with the state of Wisconsin and how it's made up. Unlike Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan, it doesn't have truly high population urban centers with, sure, it has Milwaukee and there are ghettos, there's no doubt, but it's not like the other two. There's more rural areas. There are also more, how can I put this, lumberjack Democrats, okay? Which like Donald Trump quite a bit. It is the birthplace of the populist movement. It is a very difficult state to poll. Now, in 22, the U.S. Senate race looked like it was going to go more for Ron Johnson. He barely eked it out by a point, and that is because the Democrats get out the vote in a midterm cycle. All right, they have an advantage in likely voters in low turnout midterm cycles. So, will that happen in 2020? No. But back to the point, what Joe Scarborough said is 100% false, but it is exactly what the White House said. And if you go to the Biden Wins Twitter account or the Biden Harris HQ account, you will see the exact same message. You will see that it is one which I quote, are you ready? I quote, non-representative poll. First of all, it's not one. The slate of battleground state polls that came out before the New York Times poll was, of course, the Emerson College The Hill poll, which had Joe Biden trailing Donald Trump in every single state. They polled the same states and more that the New York Times polled, and Trump was ahead, albeit he was ahead by less in some of these states. But what I strangely, and it's not, if you remember Monday's show, even in Michigan, Trump was ahead with likely voters. To have a 7-point swing, which I think was done to favor Joe Biden, A 7-point swing between the registered voter and the likely voter model is nuts. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It's 9 points or 8 or 9. What do I mean by that? Donald Trump is ahead in the registered voter sample by 7 points in Michigan, but among likely voters, they suddenly have Biden edging him out. That's nuts to me. I'm sorry. That's too big of a likely voter swing. You're counting people out that are going to vote. It's that simple. I'm telling you, I've been here before, and I'm not going to make a fool of myself again in the Trump era because he made me make a fool of myself with an Ohio Trump +3, Iowa Trump +2 or 3. I mean, they were telling the truth. And in the Trump era, a pollster should think twice before they disbelieve them. All right. But what, again, mirroring the White House message. Let's go again. Joe Scarborough, I'm going to tell you a little story about when we're done here, but we have a couple of clips.
And what's so funny is the Times will release their polls. Liberals will run around with their hair on fire for about a month, right? And then like 3 days later, polls will come out that will show a deadlocked race, right? If anybody, by the way, if anybody wants to bet me, I can't bet. I don't bet. Betting's for stupid. But if I were a bettor, and if somebody wanted to give me 11 or 12 points, and Biden in Nevada, come on. That race is always close, and Democrats always win the close races, except for the governor. Democrats always win the close race.
All right, let's stop for a second. Nevada has been consistently moving to the right. Nobody has been more of a skeptic on Republicans' ability to win the state of Nevada than me. I have long said, and I've used the words, and I quote, I went back and found them from 2020. I called Nevada fool's gold for Republicans, okay? So nobody can tell me about Nevada. That being said, I've been polling it for years and years and years. It was one state where we overestimated, that I think was the single state, when we overstated Donald Trump's support in 2016, that we believed he would win by a little less than a point. He lost by about 2 points. So what happened? The Hispanic vote shift was not underway like it is now. It's that simple. And Nevada has been the state that has been consistently shifting to the right versus the national mood. And when you look at its PVI, it's been understated. So what does that mean? It means that other than like North Carolina, which, by the way, is behind Nevada in the shift to the right, it has moved toward Republicans out of all of these battleground states versus the national vote at a more dramatic pace. In other words, it is being disproportionately impacted and affected, I would say, by the shift among Hispanics toward Donald Trump. So what does that mean? It means, do I think he's going to win by 11 points? No, but I do think he could win Nevada by 5 or 6 points. I do. Why? Well, we've been over it before. Laxalt's polling, you know, his loss, even though we had him up a little bit, his loss was baked into the cake. All of those undecideds were in Clark County. He was already losing Washoe County to Cortez Masto. So what does that matter? Well, the very same voters that were crossing over or deciding not to vote at all are Trump voters. They told us if it's, and by the way, many of them voted for Lombardo as well. They just didn't vote for Laxalt. They don't like Adam Laxalt. So if Donald Trump and Joe Biden were going against each other in 22, Donald Trump would have won the state. He would have won that race by about 5 points. We had him up by 9, but those decided from Clark would have decided, and he would have carried Clark County by about 5 points, and he would have carried Washoe by plenty, actually. He was outperforming Joe Lombardo and Adam Laxalt because he was doing better with Hispanic voters. All right. So do I think is he going to win by 11? I don't think so, but it's a telltale sign. I mean, again, sampling errors for subgroups are higher. Maybe he doesn't win Hispanics by that much, but right now it's not just the New York Times poll. He is winning Hispanics in Nevada. So if he does, it's game, set, match. The white rural vote is heavily Trumpy. The Washoe vote is moving closer to Trump. If he even edged out Biden and Washoe among, more educated whites outside Reno, it would be more than enough if he pulls off what all the polls are showing he's going to pull off in Clark County. That will be a wrap. All right. So let's keep going.
If anybody out there believes it's a double-digit lead for Donald Trump, You're seriously wake up. And it's the same thing. They're all tied. We can show you polls that show Pennsylvania, Biden ahead, Wisconsin, Biden ahead. You go down the list. But I will tell you, these polls, it's very funny. It's the Times and Siena polls, which always slant for Donald Trump. They put them out, and the political and media class have their hair on fire for weeks. That's all I had.
All right, again, that's not true. They don't always slant for Donald Trump. We just went over it, and he's telling himself a tall tale. Ask yourself why Joe had no problem with the Wisconsin polling from ABC and Langer Research and the Washington Post showing that Biden was ahead in the state of Wisconsin by 17 points. He didn't have any problem with that poll whatsoever. Yet he is saying exactly what the White House is saying. Forget about the New York Times. We just considered them the gold standard for years, including the 22 election, by the way, when they were showing better results, more favorable results for Democrats than some of the other polls that have been more accurate over the cycle. And in fact, the New York Times turned out in several of those races to be more accurate than people like Trafalgar and others. And by the way, even me in Pennsylvania, they had a poll after us in Pennsylvania, so maybe that would have mattered. But the point being, they were pointing to them just a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, was no, you got to look at the New York Times. Now, all of a sudden, they don't like the results. Okay, give me a break. Okay, give me a break. And we can point to other polls, like as if he knew, because of course he does know, because the White House, I suspect the White House got ABC to dump Langer Research. They're all using either Reuters, the Ipsos panel from Reuters, or the YouGov panel. They're all doing that. And they're all pumping out the same aberrant results or the same out of consensus results from actual, accurate, good quality polling. They're all doing that and pretending as if they're different polls. Red Eagle Politics, hat tip to you on Twitter. I don't know who you are, but you get it. You got it. He said it yesterday. No, maybe it was President Blump or something's Twitter account. Totally nailed it. They're all using the same panel and pretending they're different polls. They're not, folks. It's the same panel. If you're in the field at the same time, then you're using the same panel, the same data set, essentially. And we saw people do that in 2020, and it didn't work out well for them. I'm telling you, it didn't. Oh, by the way, it didn't work out well for several of them in 22. Should I remind you of the Democrat +6 generic ballot Politico that was hanging out there? Come on, give me a break. All right, so then we get some pushback the next day. And by the way, again, I'm going to defend the New York Times poll here in a second. We get some pushback the next day on Morning Joe. Listen to this.
Reporters lie. Here's what I'd say about this poll. If I were to ask you this question, Joe, do you know anybody on either side who doesn't think that it's the case that of the battleground states that Joe Biden is stronger in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin than he is in Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia?
It sounds about right. I've seen some polls that show that Georgia is very close. Greg Bluestein actually had an article that also says...
I'm not saying...
Okay, come on a second here. Georgia hasn't been close since the 22 election, when the first of us began to poll the rematch. Georgia has not been close. Okay? We had a Walker +1. He lost by 1. Very good poll. Let's be honest. One point off here or there. That's well within the sampling error. We also had Trump +9. I remember Garrett Archer going to Twitter after Rasmussen found the same thing, going to Twitter and saying, that's just crazy. He'll never be up by 9. And now everybody has him up between 5 and 9 points. All right, 5 and 10 points, actually. Only 1 or 2 polls here and there out of the blue have been close in Georgia. 1, 2, 3. That has not been the consistent average. In fact, in the aggregate on Real Clear Politics right now, the aggregate, because the New York Times has Trump up by 9, the aggregate in Georgia on Real Clear Politics is 4.6. On Decision Desk, which also aggregates us, by the way, Tom, wink, wink. All right. They have Trump up by 5, and he's been around 4.5 or higher for a year. So I really don't know what the hell they're talking about. Not only that, but it's the fact that Trump is at 50 or above in Georgia. He's at 50 or above in Nevada. He's at 50 or above in North Carolina. So, I mean, we're acting as if we don't know basic principles of polls these days in order to fail or, refuse to acknowledge reality, which is that yes, some of them will be too bullish for Trump. And I do think the election in these states is likely to look more competitive. Maybe not, though. You have to take into consideration, maybe not. Donald Trump has underperformed nationally by an average of about 2.7 each election cycle. If past is prologue, then, this you're gonna know an apology to the New York Times. All right, let's finish this.
It's not close.
Poll is wildly off.
I'm not saying it's not close. I'm not going to carry water for the New York Times or for the methodology of this poll. I'll keep going back to a thing that I try to say every time we talk about these things, which is that I'm really interested, and I know you know this, is like, what are the polls telling us directionally about the race?
I understand. There's a difference, though, with the New York Times Siena poll, and you know this. It's given disproportionate impact. This year, this cycle, it is skewed wildly in Donald Trump's direction. Hold on.
Yeah.
And the New York Times feasts on it with clickbait stories like a dozen at a time.
So again, I would just point out that it does get disproportionate impact. I believe it has an A+ rating on 538. 538, whether we like it or not, is still the website that all of these people will cite, including Hannity, Sean Hannity, who we're going to hear from soon. The guy's on the right, and he keeps, citing his political opponents. It's stupid. But anyway, that's Hannity. He does a lot of stupid stuff. But anyway, the fact of the matter is they didn't care when it gave when it was disproportionately influenced. The narrative was disproportionately influenced by the New York Times when it favored Joe Biden in ridiculous numbers. All right. Ridiculous numbers. Again, the New York Times will defend itself, and I'm going to read that in a second. Hold on.
And what I'm trying to focus on is what I think people should pay attention to.
But what I'm trying to focus on is the New York Times right now is actively shaping the election cycles, where this poll comes out on a Sunday and on Monday people go, oh, and I heard it. And I'm sitting there going, oh, don't be so stupid. That's why we're doing this.
So
hold on a second. Hold on. What I hear is after these Siena polls come out, every time New York Times poll says, oh, well, everything that Joe Biden's done since the State of the Union address, all this money that he's put out, all of the campaigning is for naught. No, it's not.
Well, apparently it is, Joe. Apparently it is. He has spent millions and millions and millions and tens of millions in some of these battleground states alone, and it's not working. Donald Trump is in court. All right, he had the Wildwood rally, but he's in court. He's not even on the campaign trail. He's spending money. Again, I meant to read this guy. Just have to take my word for it. Go check it out. If you don't sign up to the Decision Desk's email list, you should do it. They have some really good stuff. Go look at where Donald Trump is spending his money. I kid you not. He's spending his money on Black and Hispanic radio. I kid you not. He is putting money into this, no small amount. And so when the New York Times comes out and says that Trump is leading in several of these battleground states with Hispanics, he's doing 20% roughly of the Black vote in some of these battleground states. You best believe it. You best believe it. Sampling errors for subgroups are higher for sure. But just as, for those who argue, well, don't you think he's being, overrepresented, the Black vote is being overstated? Okay. And I would argue that the white vote is always understated. These things iron themselves out, as Sean Trendy has remarked and written about countless times. All right. They iron themselves out. Maybe white votes, the white vote margin isn't 9 points or 10 points. It's 13 or 15 or 16. And then the Black vote is in 25 points. It'll be like 18. If you don't think it's within the realm of possible for Donald Trump to get 15 to 20% of the Black vote, you have not been paying attention. And you just simply have not. We are not a pollster who has ever overstated him when it comes to Ms. Non-white vote share. Again, we had him at like 8 points in 2016. All right. We had him at like 12 points in 2020. We did not have these numbers. We did not see these numbers. So when they're showing what they're showing, again, you best believe it. All right. Let me read this, though, in defense of the New York Times real quick. Okay. I think it's worth reading. We did not read this on Monday. Here are the key things to know about how these polls were conducted. We spoke with 4,097 registered voters in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 states. Now, Nevada is a small state. You know me. I'm at least in a state like Arizona, I want 1,000 responses, 800, the bare minimum, but 1,000. In a state like Georgia, I want 1,000 responses. In a state like Michigan, I want 1,000 responses. And of course, I'm talking about minimums. It can be 800 in Michigan. It's not Pennsylvania or Ohio, but I want 1,000 responses. Nevada, you can do 500. You can do 600. I want 600 to 800 in Nevada. That's what I want. Pennsylvania, gotta be 1,000 responses for me. And Wisconsin is another, 800 or more state because it is smaller. But 4,097 registered voters isn't the Reuters poll and the Ipsos ABC News poll that they're all recycling and talking about on Morning Joe, which is 400 registered voters for a national sample. And that's showing, of course, Biden up. That is insufficient for a national poll in the modern era. But you don't hear them talking about that. You don't hear them complaining or clamming about that. Our polls are conducted by phone using live interviews in both English and Spanish. That is the gold standard for them, isn't it? Isn't it? That's another reason why it's a big victory that 538 has decided, I guess, to aggregate us. Because when we were clapped by 538, the most ridiculous things were stated. Every bit of that methodology now has been accepted by the industry. AP, after 2016, along with Fox News, left the exit poll consortium for medicine research and began to conduct what's called VoteCast. All right. VoteCast is the methodology used by the daily tracking poll for 2016. It is that methodology to include going back and trying to re-interview people who have not completed their survey or who indicated that they were not completely 100% decided and committed to voting for the person that they told us they were going to vote for. The use of MMS and SMS to reach people, to get people to take either a peer-to-peer interview or a text to online was thought of as was called trash when we first started doing it. Despite the fact that we were able to show using what is called deduping or matching or well, there's another word you might hear somebody say, so it's escaping me right now. But using those online panels and matching them to the records on the voter file, that is now considered perfectly acceptable. And not only that, but it's considered, if you're going to use online samples, the gold standard. Yet the polls that they keep touting, the YouGov stuff, the Yahoo News stuff, the ABC, Ipsos stuff, they do not use, here it is. They do not use voter validated online samples, meaning they're not doing what we do, going and matching these people to the voter files, whether it's by their email address, maybe a phone number we can get to match to find them and see whether or not it's them. Their name, of course, if we have it, their address, all of this stuff needs to be several points. We know it's them, several points, several attributes. It is a voter validated survey. They're now, after calling the New York Times the gold standard for years, they are now citing lower quality polls than the methodologies that lower quality than ever. Where some polls like ours and others that, were much, much, much higher quality polling. They're now citing the trash over both of them. It's extremely dishonest. Nearly 95% of respondents were contacted on a cell phone for this poll. You can see the exact questions that were asked and in the order in which they were asked here. This is like big data poll, where this appears to be in compliance with the American Association of Public Opinion Research and their transparency initiative. Voters are selected from the survey from a list of registered voters. The list contains information on the demographic characteristics of every registered voter, allowing us to make sure we reach the right number of voters of each party, race, and region. Folks, the New York Times announced several changes a couple of months ago during the primary season, right before it ended. And you may have noticed, actually, I think it was even before that, may have been through the midterms. You may have noticed that they have adopted several of the things that we have done for years and have criticized them for not doing. For this set of polls, we placed nearly 500,000 calls to about 410,000 voters. That is 100% right in the realm for that sample size. Just so you guys understand, when we say, hey, we have to raise the price of the public polling project, now you know why. Response rates, in order to compensate, there's only one way to compensate for low response rates like this. And that's not a bad one in modern terms. It's really not a bad one, but it's not what it used to be many years ago. And again, the only way to compensate for that, folks, the only way is to collect larger sample sizes. That is what irons out low sample size. All right. So, I mean, this is exactly what I would expect. This is exactly what I would expect to see. About a 1% response rate, roughly, a little bit lower. But in order to get 100 responses, listen, let me say it like this. In order for you to get 100 people to interact, you got to send at least 10,000 interviews. Of those 100 people, maybe you'll get 10 of them, 100 of them, to respond. I mean, so it usually is around 1.2, 1.25. This one's a little bit lower, but it's in the ballpark. To further ensure that the results reflect the entire voting population, not just those willing to take a poll, we give more weight to respondents from demographic groups underrepresented among survey respondents, like people without a college degree. They're trying to fix their mistakes. They're trying to fix what they did wrong in 2016, 18, 20. And so far, it seems to be working. And because a midterm is going to favor those who do have a college degree, obviously they did better. I mean, this is honestly, folks, if we're having an intellectual conversation about this, this is not even close. Morning Joe is totally wrong. I mean, he is totally wrong. And the New York Times is doing what they feel is working for them and has worked for them. Now, if it turns around, we'll have to look and see what kind of methodology changes were made. But as of right now, they're doing what they can do. Listen, you can see more information about the characteristics of our respondents in the weighted sample on the methodology page under composition of the sample. All right. Listen to this too. When the states are joined together, the margin of sampling error among registered voters is plus or minus 1.8%. Percentage points. Each state poll has a margin of error ranging from plus or minus 3.6 points in Pennsylvania to 4.6 in Georgia. In theory, this means that the results should reflect the views of the overall population most of the time, though many other challenges create additional sources of error. When computing the difference between two values, such as a candidate's lead in a race, the margin of error is twice as large. That's technically correct because of what they did. This is why we how can I put this? This is why how we chose to do the Rust Belt poll. I believe, personally, it's designed in a more superior fashion. All right. We're not going to have these huge differences in the changes or the sampling errors between the I'm going to say this, but making it make sense to everybody. We're not going to have different states with humongous differences in margin of error. So if there's going to be a 2.7 margin of error in Georgia, or actually, because we're talking about the Rust Belt poll, not the Sun Belt poll. If there's going to be a 2.7 margin of error in Michigan or Pennsylvania, because it's larger, let's say Pennsylvania, 2.7, then in Michigan, it's going to be more like 2.9 or 3. Maybe not even. Maybe we just gather as much as we need and it's 2.7. But we're not going to have one that is 5 points and one that is 2.9 or 2.7, or 3.6 and then one that's 5.5. That's not going to happen in ours because we are making each state representative of the entire sample. Okay. And I do believe, because we have experience in this, everyone else just started to do this. We have been doing these surveys like this for a long time. So the Rust Belt poll was first designed, in fact, for the Epoch Times, right? That was over 4 years ago now. Other pollsters simply were not doing that. All right. They were doing individual state polls, they were doing national polls. They were not doing surveys and designing surveys the way we have for many years. And they're, I think, trying to get their hand on it. Same thing goes with the Bloomberg Morning Consult poll. You may notice that Spencer at Emerson College, he is doing it more like us. All right. So why is that? Because you want more consistency. If you're going to collect 4,000 for 6 states, so 1 or 2 states are going to suffer. And you're going to have a huge sampling error in some of those states. I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that. Listen. So for those who are acknowledging reality, let's get into that and play that clip, because let's be honest. Morning Joe is doing what the White House wants them to do. Okay? It's that simple. Yeah, I got to take a break. Morning Joe is doing what the White House wants them to do. But behind closed doors, are they really acting like Morning Joe? No. And in fact, in the next frame, or the next segment when we come back, you're going to see Biden's team, the White House, would not allow the president to agree to these debates, all right, at all, if they didn't believe they were behind. All right? They would hide Joe. We know this. And not only is it conventional political wisdom to not expose your leading candidate to potential damage, but it's also part of the Biden campaign's history of thinking. So we know for a fact that if they believed they were in a stronger position than the polls are showing, they would not have done what they just did. All right, but let's take a real quick break. All right. All right. If anyone's struggling with tax debt out there, listen up. The IRS breathing down your neck. If you owe taxes and you don't know where to turn, I've got the answer for you. It's on the screen. Tax Relief Helpers. Tax Relief Helpers is a team of experienced tax attorneys, enrolled agents, and accountants, and they've been resolving tax issues for people for over 20 years. Believe me, folks, they have seen it all. You need a team like this on your side to stop the nasty letters, wage garnishments, even audits. Here's how it works. You'll start with a private consultation, which comes at no cost to you. Then they'll do a thorough tax debt report, and you'll see exactly what the IRS sees. All right. And they're going to explain it to you. They even have a special insider phone line to the IRS to help speed up the resolution of your problems. Tax Relief Helpers will build your case, save you time, endless paperwork, and they're tough negotiators. So tough, even their competitors hire them. The best part is they will get results. Remember, tax problems won't solve themselves. Call Tax Relief Helpers today and start your journey toward tax resolution. The number's on the screen. It's 888-508-5797. That's 888-508-5797. If you give them a call, tell them the People's Pundit sent you. Or you can visit the website at taxreliefhelpers.com. That's taxreliefhelpers.com. When you fill out the referral thing, don't forget to tell them again the People's Pundit sent you. Don't wait. Call Tax Relief Helpers now. Get your life back on track and leave the tax troubles behind. Leave them behind. All right. One more. I don't know how the PPI is skyrocketing and burning hot like it was the other day, and then somehow CPI cools off. You tell me how that works. Bureau of Labor Statistics, give me a break. We all know what's going on. And given everything that is going on in the world right now, it is no surprise that people are looking for safer places to invest their money. Stocks are unpredictable. And let's face it, inflation, they can really impact the value of currencies. That's why I want to talk to you about Freedom Gold USA. If you ever thought about investing in gold or silver and you're just interested in, or maybe you're just interested in diversifying your investment portfolio, Freedom Gold USA is definitely a company you should check out. What I like about Freedom Gold USA is that they're all about helping you make smart investment choices in precious metals, not getting you to hit that certain bracket that most people don't have. Let's get real. They believe that the more you know, the better. So they offer free investment guides, consultations. That gives you information you need to make confident decisions and no pressure, no hard sell. Now, there's also something else different about Freedom Gold USA, they guarantee competitive pricing on some of the best quality purity gold and silver. You'll know you'll get a solid deal, and you don't have to worry about extra fees. They offer free shipping and insurance. Yeah, free shipping and insurance. Plus, you might even get some free silver if you have qualifying purchase. And they give you $500 credit toward opening a gold or silver IRA. It's a nice bonus, folks. It's a nice bonus. Here's the best part. Dealing with Freedom Gold USA is simple and it's hassle-free. You will not get any pushy sales tactics. They're all about helping you reach your goals in a way that works for you and makes you comfortable. So if you want to learn more, I definitely recommend giving Freedom Gold USA a call. Number is on the screen, 888-279-3592. Again, that's 888-279-3592. Tell them the People's Pundit sent you. Or you could just check out their website, which is for a link that they put together for me, freedomgoldusa.com/rich. freedomgoldusa.com/rich. Find out about all their latest special offers there and see what kind of deals you might qualify for. Let me give you the number one more time, 888-279-3592, or go to freedomgoldusa.com/rich. Don't wait. Go secure your future. Go feel the peace of mind. All right. Because in this tumultuous time, you need peace of mind. You know what I mean? All right. Yeah, I'm in a good mood today. Wouldn't you be? Victorious! Should have played the Beowulf song in the opening. I'm playing Beowulf on the next break. Damn right. All right, listen. We played a clip of him the other day. I was pulling clips, and I'm like, going to pull a clip from Sean Hannity. Anyway, I heard him say something. He's right. This dude is fun to hang. He's like, actually, he's kind of fun to hang out with. Look, he's an old school Democrat. Is he a little nuts? Of course he's nuts. But he's married to a conservative. How nuts can he be? Right? Anyway, let's roll it.
This might be maybe the only trial that we see of Donald Trump this year. Is it time for Democrats to move on and look at the fundamentals of this race and not see these trials as somehow this X factor that's going to have a huge influence on how this thing turns out in November?
Yeah, I think that we have to, because the fundamentals right now, frankly, are depressing, and we have all of these events, and they change little or nothing.
So, there it is. Basically, there's James Carville saying that these events change little to nothing. Now, there's a new poll out, which the media is desperately clinging to. And by media, I mean corporate media. Desperately clinging to, because, of course, it's the one poll showing Biden ahead. And, by the way, it's actually kind of weird. I believe it's from the same data set which shows Trump ahead and Republicans down on the generic ballot. So that, oh no, that's right. Reuters, the Ipsos panel is different. That's right. The YouGov panel shows Trump ahead and Republicans down on the generic ballot, which would not surprise me. Republicans, it would be really hard. They would really have to screw this election up to not win control of the U.S. Senate. They should win it in huge numbers. It should be the biggest majority Republicans have in a very, very long time. But they're Republicans, and we all know how competent they are in snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. So we'll see. But the House, different story. That being said, given how well Donald Trump is performing in some of these blue states, Minnesota, New Jersey, New York, there should be opportunities for Republicans to overperform what they have been in these states. And man, Minnesota, I'm thinking of at least 2 districts. In New Jersey, I'm thinking of 2 districts. In New York, I'm thinking of like 5 districts. But they're Republicans, so we'll just have to see. So they're clinging to this. And in that poll, it says, what if Trump is convicted? And it goes from being a very close race where Biden's slightly ahead to Biden being up by like 7. Folks, I'm telling you, that is not going to happen. It doesn't encapsulate the entire choice that people have. They know the answer. They know the answer that they know the answer that they know you expect to give. All right. I know that sounds crazy, but I bring up Obama's pollster all the time because he said it best. If you believe that 20% of Republicans are going to vote for Joe Biden if Donald Trump is convicted by the Alvin Bragg jury, you're lying to yourself, or you don't understand that those people are lying to the pollster. If Joe Biden was convicted, 20% of Democrats are not going to vote for Donald Trump. All right. That's just not the world we live in anymore. If Joe Biden was impeached, we've been through this, by the way. We've seen numbers that were even worse for Donald Trump during the impeachment. By the way, from the Ipsos panel. I kid you not, go look it up. What if Donald Trump is impeached? Then would you vote for him for re-election? Give me a break. What happened? What happened is that Donald Trump drew the largest turnout any Republican presidential candidate has ever seen. Ever. Even though he lost, we sometimes bury that. Not just a Republican. That is the greatest number of votes ever received by an incumbent president, period. Even Barack Obama, which, by the way, won re-election in a fairly low turnout election. All right. So it's just not going to happen. And by the way, the Biden White House doesn't believe it. They don't believe it, which is why they're doing this. Here we go. Let's roll this tape.
Lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
Ooh, that's a dig at the court stuff. Okay. Robert Costa, where are you, buddy? You out there listening? You don't care about this? You had a knip shit when Mike Johnson, the number 2 in line. By the way, the speaker is actually number 3. All right. This is the president, the vice president, the speaker. All right. But I know what you mean. Number 2, if Biden was to, You had a meltdown over the fact that the number 2 in line to the White House made a comment on these cases. This is now the second time. By the way, weren't you at the White House Correspondents' Dinner? Or were you not invited? If you weren't invited, I don't know, honestly. But if you weren't invited, I am sure, I am positive you didn't miss it. You didn't miss his remarks. You have a problem with Mike Johnson commenting on it, but you have no problem with Joe Biden repeatedly making jokes about the prosecutions that his White House has directed against his political opponent who is currently beating him like a drum in the polls. I'm old enough to remember when this was an impeachable offense to prosecute your political opponents, especially when he was leading you in the polls. I remember when that was a high crime and misdemeanor. You don't? It was just a couple years ago. 20 minutes ago, a couple years ago. That is why Donald Trump was impeached. That was the spoken reason why. Of course, we really know the reason why was because he threatened the sacred cow and he threatened to expose what we now know to be the money laundering scheme that is Ukraine and foreign aid. Foreign aid is a money laundering scheme at which elected officials send other governments your money so that they and their families can get favorable contracts and financial benefits. And then they launder that money. That's what foreign aid is. Have you ever asked yourself why no foreign aid program has worked since the Marshall Plan? Well, it's because they had economic infrastructure. No, they were in rubble. Only part of that is true. The other part is that our leaders didn't use it as their own personal slush fund. Foreign aid became a money laundering scam to get them rich. It was no longer what it was during the Marshall Plan. All right, so remember that. And remember I told you that Joe Scarborough and Morning Joe are very, very, very clearly echoing everything the White House wants them to say. I got time, right? It's 12:55. I do. Remember that. Roll clip.
News here on
Crap.
President Biden laying out his terms for participating in the presidential debates this fall.
And the breaking news is they're not going to go the commission route. Donald Trump has already said in the past he's not going to go the commission route. Trump has said he'd debate Biden anytime, any place. It looks like Joe Biden has taken him up on that. Let's see what the president's saying.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. Since then, he hadn't shown up.
Time out. I have to comment on the commission and presidential debates. Supposedly nonpartisan or bipartisan, really. Totally crap. Filled with a bunch of Democrats and and Democrats who are pretending to be Republicans. All right. They hate Donald Trump. And in 2020, they used COVID as an excuse to help rig it for Joe Biden. Everybody knows that the second presidential debate is the comeback debate for the incumbent president. Why? It's on foreign policy. And they always look superior. George W. Bush lost his first debate to John Kerry, came back and clobbered John Kerry over the Iraq War and terrorism in the second debate, and that won him the election, or went toward winning him the election. The plan to define John Kerry in the spring was huge, and without it, he would have lost. I mean, we're talking about 10,000 votes in Iowa. He would have lost. And then also, of course, we have to talk about Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. Here's another great example. Mitt Romney clobbered Barack Obama in the first debate, but then in the foreign policy debate with the help of CNN's Monica Crowley, Barack Obama came back and Mitt Romney laid down like a coward. It's in the Netflix documentary. You can see they thought that he spoke inappropriately to an incumbent president, that he disrespected Barack Obama. So he treated him with kid gloves the next time, and between the media and the Democrats' coordination, Mitt Romney was eviscerated. Also, we could go back to Ronald Reagan, Walter Mondale. All right. We could just keep going, honestly, because this is the truth. And they know this. This is known information. What I am saying right now is not some theory. It isn't something that, is obscure. Everybody in my field, everybody in that world knows what I'm saying is true. Joe Biden, they also know, has the worst foreign policy history of pretty much anyone who's been there as long as he has. As his own defense secretary said when he was vice president, Joe Biden has been on the wrong side of every major foreign policy decision over the last 4 decades. When it comes to the raid to kill Osama bin Laden, thank God Barack Obama had more courage than Joe Biden, who was worried about political fallback or blowback if the mission, the operation did not go according to plan. He advised Barack Obama not to push the green button. Red team go, red team go. Even Hillary Clinton was like, Joe Biden is a coward. He is a coward. Which, by the way, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton don't like Joe Biden. All right. I'm like, telling these little secrets here that aren't really secrets, and people should tell you. And for some reason, they're not. It's insane. All right. Also, where else? They canceled that using COVID as a way to, use as an excuse to protect Joe Biden. So I would not go with the commission on presidential debates either, because they have a very long and documented history of being biased. All right. This is not the days of Jim Lair are over, and the League of Women Voters, that's over. I mean, those used to be legitimate debates where the American people got a lot out of it. And now that is sadly not the case. It is not believed that he beat Donald Trump in the first debate. Nobody won that first debate, if you ask me personally. If you're trying to win South Florida, then Donald Trump won that first debate, even though it was a screaming match, because they liked the machismo. And very clear, we interviewed them, we conducted that poll. You can go back and reference it. You will see Hispanics liked that performance, and especially the Hispanics we spoke to in South Florida. And that got him another 200,000 votes, or it helped him anyway get 200,000 votes. But I really don't think debates are, in the modern era, they're not as big as they were like in 1980 when Jimmy Carter lost the debate to Ronald Reagan. They're not as big as when George Bush pummeled John Kerry in 2004. They're not even as big as they were when Barack Obama eviscerated Mitt Romney in that second debate. But they didn't want to take the risk, so they canceled it. The third debate, up in the air. I mean, the polls showed that Biden won it. I don't know. I mean, I didn't think it was a dominating performance on behalf of anybody. You had Chris Wallace and others doing their job, trying to hurt Donald Trump. But again, he's trying to strike this tough guy tone. I've done it before, but watch, just keep paying attention.
For debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Nothing subtle about that round.
Yeah, that was straight down the middle.
For anyone who doesn't know, that's when the court is in recess.
Right, yeah, exactly.
very funny. Al Sharpton, I hope it's worth never being able to pick up the phone and beg Donald Trump for money again for your organizations, because maybe we all don't know, but I know that you did that a lot. All right. And he gave it to you. So I hope it was worth it. That's the problem. One of the major problems the Black community has, and I know it from firsthand experience. They have a bunch of leaders who sell them out for their own benefit. And it's sad. It really is. Let's see. Where do I want to go from here? Let's get the other side's reaction. But you know where I'm going with this with Morning Joe. Okay? You know where I'm going with this. That's exactly what the White House wanted them to say. Exactly. And they did it. All right. So again, mocking. I mean, not only do they not seem to care anymore about the blowback of the politics, the optics of process. Forget about the optics, like the real world impact on our society and our government and our social contract from doing what they're doing with lawfare. They just openly mock it now and joke. They just openly mock it and joke. All right, you know what? Actually, when we get back from a break, we will. When we get back from a break, that's when we'll do our next clip, which is reaction from the other side. What do they think? Okay. There's an announcement. I'm telling you, there's an announcement I need. It's beyond Battleground. Of course, today is Savage Wednesdays on Parnell. But that's not it. I'm missing something. I'm certainly missing something. All right. Well, it is what it is. Hang tight. We'll be back in a couple of minutes on Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Don't forget, if you like the videos, like them, share them far and wide, folks. We'll be back. We'll be back. All of that you didn't hear, for the love of God. Back to the People's Pundit. Inside numbers with the People's Pundit. Of course, I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Don't forget to like the videos. If you like them, share them far and wide, blah, blah, blah. And then I was just saying that we did get the link to the Public Polling Project is in the description. And of course, do what you can, share it as well, far and wide. We have gotten new contributors to the Public Polling Project, which is great, because the bigger the base to crowdfund, the better, the less burden it will be on the usual people who have always done it, you folks out there. And then I said, they're not huge, but we're 5.5 months out. This will act like a snowball. We keep rolling the snowball down the hill. It will pick up pace and steam and mass. And then by the time Laura and I dip into the old pocket, it won't be as big as it was last year. That's basically verbatim what I said when it was on hold. But let's take a second to talk about our sponsor and pay the bills. All right. They're back, folks. They are back. Our friends from Michigan, Patriots, like I have said in the past, they are absolutely Patriots. They were, I would say, the first line of defense against the COVID tyranny that went on, and we love them for it. But they also happen to be artists in what is an art of coffee roasting, and their teas are amazing. I never thought I'd be a tea drinker, and I've had some very good teas. It just never really stuck. But ever since, trying Jam and Bean's different assortment, I've loved them. Jamandbean.com. It's JAMN, the letter N, bean.com. When you go there and you sign up for a new subscription, folks, use the promo code TPP40. That's TPP40 at checkout. And that will get you 40% off the initial cost of the subscription. But every time it renews, you'll also get 10% off. They're back with this amazing deal. As always, send us your feedback. It's always great about Jam and Bean. They have the best medium roast. I'm a full body guy. I like dark roasts, but later during the day, it's nice to have a medium roast. The problem is it tastes like water. All right. Even from like Green Mountain and stuff, it tastes like water. And even those that you buy in the grocery store, if you get a K-Cup, for instance, sometimes I'm on the run and I need K-Cups too. I like to roast my own, but sometimes when I'm on the run, I have to be quick about it. I got to grab a K-Cup. I'm telling you, you bust one open from the grocery store, you're not going to see dark, full body medium roast grind. You're going to see less of a dark roast. And most often with many of the store big name brands, you're going to see some kind of what looks like almost like a wafer in there. Guys, I don't know what in the hell that is. It looks like some kind of styrofoam wafer. It cannot be healthy to run super hot water through that thing and into your coffee and ingest it. It cannot be. All right. So, by the way, their freeze-dried candy assortment is the bomb. The Huckleberry saltwater taffy is amazing. And I can't have candy like that anymore, so if I want one, the freeze-dried is great, and the pricing is way more competitive, as is their gourmet popcorn pricing. Their gourmet popcorn is my favorite gourmet popcorn, and I will show you, just so you know, this is now my second bin of loaded baked potato. It's all natural. There are actually bits of bacon in here. What? Have that with a handful of sour cream and chives. What? So good. All right. Again, use the promo code TPP40 at checkout. All right. Let's play the clip from the other side of the aisle. We're at 110. We're doing all right here. Actually, we're doing more than all right. We're ahead of schedule. That's good. Maybe I'll get to some of those super chats. Yeah. In fact, I'm so confident we're ahead. Nah, let's do this. Let's just go. Let's go.
This made my day. This made my morning. This is great news if you're Donald J. Trump today for a lot of reasons. And if I was President Trump, I'd say, why not make it June, July, August, September? Yeah. Let's have 4, Joe. Really make my day. You want to have a debate? Let's have debates. And I think this is phenomenal news for a couple of reasons. One, I think that Donald Trump will wipe the floor with him. And I don't care if we get the State of the Union jacked up Joe with caffeine, Red Bull, or whatever. Or we get regular Joe that could barely walk off the stage last night. I think it's a great opportunity.
Or regular Joe that could barely walk off the stage last night. Oh, my God. Listen, They're going to make sure that he is ready to go. Come on, give me a break. Of course they are. They're going to make sure he's ready to go. That being said, I would say he can't last forever. You know, I mean, we saw the State of the Union after about, 15 minutes? Is that fair? 15 minutes? You know, I would say that's all he's got. And not only that, but when he gets pissed off, he acts the way he does. And that is the way I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. I mean, that's the way a senile, mentally degraded person acts when they are angry and frustrated and can't find the answers to what they're looking for. They can't find the names. He's going to say names incorrectly again. Lincoln, right? Blinken, Blanken. What the hell did he call her? Let's talk about respect for the dead or disrespect for the dead. Just absolutely awful. But here's the kicker. He says out there, make my day. I beat you twice before. I'll beat you again. But that's not really true. The White House immediately followed up that cute little video, which, by the way, Joe Scarborough didn't address. CNN did. They immediately followed up with stipulations. And what stipulations are those? Well, when that happens, what do you think the reaction is going to be? From a typical debate crowd, what do you think the reactions are going to be? And then how will that play optically at home? Do you think Joe Biden has the mental fitness to do what he did in the first debate with Donald Trump this time without totally flipping out? He's gone down a lot, folks, since, the summer of 2020 and the fall of 2020. He's gone down a lot. All right. He was doing the geriatric shuffle without a doubt, back then, but he's gone down a lot. And I simply don't see it. Now, there are some wonder drugs out there. Wonder drugs. But if his team, if they were so confident, like 100% confident, they would not have laid out these stipulations. Let's take a look.
Should be, yes, in studio with no audience so that the candidates can clearly articulate their visions for the country.
Is an audience a deal breaker? Is an audience a deal breaker for you?
Listen, it's Donald Trump who said he would do this anytime, anywhere, any place. So I don't think that they should have any problems with what we have proposed. He's the one who said he's ready to go. So we should be set to go once we have proposals in from networks.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. There's only one reason why you wouldn't want a studio audience. And that's because if things don't go right, the laughing, the mocking, the giggling, like you wouldn't be able to control that. With the media there, right? With the media alone and the moderators alone who will be on Joe Biden's side. Joe Biden is not going to sit down and debate with Tucker Carlson as the moderator. All right. And I don't even think somebody like a Sean Hannity should be the moderator. Tucker was an objective person, whether the left likes him or not. Did he, of course, have his own views? Everybody has their own views. But Chris Wallace was openly and blatantly left wing. So, Soledad O'Brien. Right? Who else? I mean, we can name all of these people. You guys remember some of the other moderators from 2020? Openly left wing. Even Lester Holt. Give me a break. Okay? At one time, even Brian Williams was more honestly and impartial and down the middle than Lester Holt. It should be somebody. If they're going to pick somebody like them again, then there should be somebody like Tucker Carlson moderating that debate next to them. Tucker has a bigger audience on Twitter than those people could ever dream to have on cable or network news. Let's get real. So why not? Why not? Why not? If we're throwing the rules up, out, and the Commission on Presidential Debates is not going to be involved, grab Joe Rogan or something. Let's do something different in this country. Debates are for the advertisers, and they're for so the ruling class can control what is said and what isn't said, which is why they hate Donald Trump on the debate stage. That's the truth. Certain things are just off limits. All right, let's get to some of these comments. I mean, honestly, Gustavo, honestly, how bad did these polls look for him? He was already signaling during the primary that there was no reason to debate. He was already signaling that. So give me a break. Come on. By the way, let's take a look and see. I don't know. There's nothing new today that I missed. I'll just show it. Some of the nationals, I guess. Oh, yeah, and the Minnesota one. Yeah. And that's the point. I did want to get to that. I'm going to get to some of the questions first. Let me pull up the RCP latest polls here. Exactly. But you got it, Gustavo. I mean, you're all over it, brother. All over it. There's no doubt. No doubt. It would never have done it. Never, never, never. Give me 2 seconds. I did all of this. I'm going over some of the stuff here. Bum, 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 bum. I think that it's a done deal here, I think. Looking. 10 seconds here. Yeah. I mean, you guys see that KSTP Survey USA poll? For some reason, that's being called the. Listen, I'm not going to want to trash anybody, just to trash people. But for some reason, that's being called the gold standard in Minnesota. When the hell did that happen? Because I don't remember that. I mean, they were better in 2020. That's true. They were better in 2020. I think they, like us, probably overestimated Joe Biden by a little bit at least. But I will say that 2016 was a bomb. And I remember because I was all by myself singing that song, all by myself, and it was a 2-point race, and it was difficult to sit there and listen to some of the other polls, which were just, to me, I mean, it's just totally insane. I mean, I didn't have a lot of experience polling Minnesota, but I was fairly confident in being right. Let me bring up this comment, actually. Emperor Soft Turtle. As a black man, you can tell them, and they do not believe you. Mother told me don't start paying your student loans because Biden would forgive them. Laugh at her and kept on paying. Good for you, though, because, doesn't that very, very aptly illustrates, not the word. What's the word? That is a great example, I could say, a great example of the generational divide. All right. Yeah, I'm doing this right. In some of the minority communities, right? There are younger non-white people, non-white voters who don't have the same trust in these parties, in these people, in these leaders that their forebears or their elders have. All right. And they are doing their own thing and living by their own rules, making their own decisions. And I really think that is a perfect example of that. I really do. Joe's not going to help me, Mom. I'm going to pay these student loans myself. The older black voters, older generations of black voters have a much stricter connection to the Democratic Party. And it's their memories of the civil rights era, and they trust them more. And that is not true of the younger generations. That was a really good, thank you for that comment, because that was really good. This is a really interesting question. Ryan, can I ask you to tell me who you're referring to when you say this? What are the odds a pollster takes 3 consecutive polls over 6 months and gets the same or the exact same numbers? Shouldn't this be a red flag? If you could tell me, that would be great. If you could tell me who you're talking about, that would be great. Because it really does depend on the methodology. I would say things should be more stable than some of the wild gyrations you're seeing in some of the polls. I think what I mean is over 6 months seems like a lot to me. Like a lot to me. All right. That seems like a long period of time where there isn't the exact same results. Seems like a lot. I don't know. Like, for instance, we're usually in the same ballpark, but we're not exactly the same, even though I make the case that public opinion does not shift the way that some of these polls that have methodology issues and challenges, those shifts are artifacts of the polls themselves. They are not legitimate changes in public opinion. That being said, you should be in the same ballpark if you caught the mood of the electorate, but over a 6-month period, man, that's a lot. I don't know. To me, that may be a red flag, Ryan. Yeah. It does depend, though, for me, and the reason why I'm saying this, it does depend on how that pollster is, like, what is their data collection mode or modes? That would make sense. Look, thank you for that on locals. Yeah, Ryan, send me who you're talking about. I'd like to know. But yeah, locals sent me this thing. I've got to play it. Gotta play it. And then there's a video too from him about what I referenced before. It's 2 minutes though. That's kind of a lot. We'll play it after here. Let me go down let me pop this off the screen. That's a must show. A must show. Going, referring to the debate, Donald Trump responded and he said, "Please let this truth serve to represent that I hereby accept debating crooked Joe Biden on Fox News. The day will be Wednesday, October 2nd. The hosts will be Brett Baer and Martha McCowan. Thank you, Donald J. Trump." I think that's a mistake. And I don't know how Donald Trump doesn't know that's a mistake. Fox News is not going to reach the people that Tucker Carlson and like a Joe Rogan would reach. This is playing within the same boundaries that Democrats are used to playing in. Fox News, Martha McCowan is a liberal, pretending she's like a version of, what was her name? She used to be on the Kirby couch in the morning. Now she's over at CNN. You guys know who I'm talking about. What was her name? God, Don Smith knows her. And she used to pretend to be so conservative, and she's totally full of it. I think that personally is a mistake. I do. While we wait for the answers from Ryan and somebody else, I'm going to go and I'm going to play this clip. He's responding to the PPI and the CPI. Let's play it and see what Trump has to say. I'm not playing the entire 3 minutes. I'm not doing it. Let's see if I can get it to play, period. Truth doesn't seem to want to play it. Are you going to play? I guess not. It's going to spin. All right, while we wait. Remember Savannah Guthrie in the Miami town hall? I might be misremembering, but she was interrupting him, combative, and at points downright nasty. No, you're not misremembering, crew. You are not. That's actually, I think it's Savannah Guthrie who I was referring to and thinking about. I really do. I think that's it. I think you're right about that. Yeah, it was Savannah Guthrie. That thing doesn't want to play. That's a shame because I would have liked to hear his take from it. Let me see if I can go there another way and get it. Sometimes truth, you got to like move around a little bit. I don't know what's going on there, but I can look. It is my great honor to accept the CNN debate against crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of the United States. and a true threat to democracy on June 27th. Likewise, I accept the ABC News debate against crooked Joe Biden on September 10th. Thank you, Donald J. Trump. I think these are mistakes. Personally, I do. So I know what he's doing. I know what he's trying to do. He's looking at the polls and he's saying, wow, I'm winning those voters. I'm not supposed to be winning anymore. Allison Camerata, Blondie. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Allison Camerata, my man. That's who it is. That's right. Oh my God, she really has an ankle tattoo of a Subway token that says good for one ride. Oh my God. No, she doesn't. I believe it though. I believe it. Yeah, so it looks like we're at 3 debates. Again, I think this is a mistake. I really do. I don't think this is a good idea at all. I'm taking this down and we'll wait and we'll see what goes on next. But I think that he should do something new and fresh, and instead of doing what they always do. I think this will work towards Joe Biden's favor. I think they'll make sure it'll work towards Joe Biden's favor. I don't even think you could trust Fox News. By the way, Joe Biden got 6 community note flags in a 14-second video. On that video that I showed you before, we have some time to play around here a little bit. And then maybe I'll go in a little bit, but early, but I want to show you this. Look at this. And Rasmussen said it right. He leaves out important context to appear to be challenging Trump to a fair debate. Stipulations. No live audience. 2. RFK Jr. is banned from these debates. How could I have forgotten that? Trump's mic is muted when Biden speaks. Only hosted by NPR, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, or CBS. Moderated by Democratic-aligned reporters. And by the way, this is all in the New York Times article. You know what? Can we read that? Yeah, we have time. It's gonna do me dirty. I'm not re-signing up to the New York Times. Take our word for it. It's in the community notes. I'm not redoing it. Or a subscription to the New York Times. Not doing it. This is just, to me, unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I think that Donald Trump is making a huge mistake for not doing it. I mean, for not pushing for more favorable terms. I think it is a major, major mistake. These things are designed to help the incumbent. And if you're going to do this in their system, you need more than this. You need more than this. So yeah, not a good idea. Sorry. Not a good idea. I don't know who made these decisions or if he made them. Molly Hemingway said immediately that Trump should demand nobody he debates be allowed to wear an earpiece, use an earpiece, including the Democratic moderators. It would genuinely make the debate more fair and more interesting. Those earpieces are real. Like every time we see these debates, somebody pops up a video on Twitter like, look, they're talking to him in an earpiece. Yes, they have earpieces. And yes, I mean, you don't know what they're doing with those earpieces. I don't think this was good. He should have done, listen to this. Julie Kelly, the CNN debate will take place the day after 3 days of court hearings in Florida, where Trump's lawyers present evidence of Biden's White House colluding with NARA and the DOJ to manufacture the document case. That could work to his benefit, but what if the moderators just simply shut it down? I don't think that this was a smart play. I just don't. I think it was not smart at all, in fact. There's a better way to do this in today's era. And I understand that he wants to do it this way because you have to understand, too, that Trump was part of this environment for so long. I don't think he realizes they're never going to let you back in, Mr. President. They're never going to let you back in. And I know you desperately, desperately want to be back in. It's not going to happen. It's just not. And I also think some of the thinking is, again, like I said, I'm winning some of these voters. I'm not supposed to be winning. They watch these channels. Seniors, maybe, boomers. But anybody else who's watching those channels, you're not going to persuade. Sorry, you're not. And the major swings that we're seeing in these polls are among demographics who simply don't tune into these networks. They would have tuned into a debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, moderated by Tucker Carlson on Twitter. They would have tuned in if it was on the Rogan Experience. You could find somebody else too. It doesn't have to be. But you know the point I'm trying to make. A new age person. That's the audience that if you're Donald Trump, you want to reach. I think all you could do is potentially hurt yourself with these debates. I'm sorry. Now, again, how long can Joe Biden last in these debates? Do I think Donald Trump is probably going to crush him? Of course. Trump is a better debater. He's a more entertaining debater. And Joe Biden used to be really good at this. If you don't believe me, I refer you to the 2012 vice presidential debate when he wiped the floor with Paul Ryan. He wiped the floor with Paul Ryan, folks. I mean, it was not particularly close. He was jovial, he was funny, he was charming, and he was witty, he was sharp. And Paul Ryan was none of those things. He was a wonky little dork that you would not even invite to a fondue party. Are you kidding? Wow, we burned through this so early. Are you kidding me? That does give me more time to pull. Listen, I want to do oh, and another thing Molly Hemingway just said, she just tweeted, is Trump should also demand that CNN and other Democratic media involved in debates refrain from supplying the questions in advance to Biden. But they still will, Molly. They still will. All right. They're still gonna. Yeah, I got to. Maybe we should just do it there. I mean, we got through all of the things. I got to. Yeah, they want to lock up Steve Bannon during the election. I kid you not. I kid you not. Yeah, Barnes is right about that. So I just think. Oh, how could I have forgotten that video? Oh, but I didn't clip it. It's so long though. Oh, let's see. Hold on. You know what, guys? I was going to say, because I did get through. Oh, Ryan. That's what I wanted to come back to. Ryan. Are you in here, Ryan? Let's see. Did Ryan answer my question on which poll he was talking about? Because I would really like to know. You may be talking about, I suspect you may be talking about TIP. Is it TIP? Because they don't poll every single, or they probably will now, and poll every single month. And there's some really weird results there. I can't defend it. I can't. But unfortunately, until you tell me who it is, and I can't fully answer it because there's some potential legitimate reasons for that to happen. And I'm just trying to be fair, All right. Let's watch this clip from Michael Cohen. Since we're so early, and I was going to say there's a good call I got to make anyway that you're going to want me to make, so we could go early. But let's play this video before we do. And it's kind of long, but that's okay. All right. This is Michael Cohen. And this is why it's like you pretend like the guy's convicted and these polls are going to change dramatically as if people aren't going to be filtering in all the information about them that they know. Like this, for instance. Here's Michael Cohen. All right. Just listen. And before you may not know. Here, let's do this for context. I hope it doesn't show any private messages. This is Robert Costello, the truth about Michael Cohen and the lies that Trump is that he's promoted about Trump. But in 2018, Michael Cohen said, talking to counsel, "I am not going to jail. What's my escape hatch?" The lawyer said, "If you have anything on Trump, I can get you a deal and you'll walk." Cohen said, "I swear to God, I have nothing on Donald Trump." All right.
I've been an attorney for 51 years, and I'm the former assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, where I was deputy chief of the criminal division. I am not now, nor have I ever been, an attorney for Donald Trump, any of his family members, or any of his businesses. I've represented quite a number of high-profile individuals, but never Donald Trump. During the period April 2018 to July 2018, I represented Michael Cohen. Today, I can talk to you about what Michael Cohen told my law partner and me, because Michael Cohen waived the attorney-client privilege at the request of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. The reason was Michael Cohen had pled guilty to 8 felony counts in the Southern District and was seeking to lessen his sentence. And he thought he could be clever by going into the U.S. Attorney's Office and lying about cooperation. Michael Cohen went to the U.S. Attorney's Office and accused Rudy Giuliani and myself of conspiring to obstruct justice by tampering with a witness, namely Michael Cohen. The story, which they were floating at the time and his lawyers put out in the various newspapers, was that we had dangled a pardon under Michael Cohen's nose in order to keep him quiet so that he wouldn't testify against Donald Trump. When I received the call from the U.S. Attorney's Office saying, Bob, we'd like to talk to you about your representation of Michael Cohen, I said to them, can I presume that you guys are sitting there with a copy of the waiver of the attorney-client privilege? And they said, you presume correctly. I told them to scan it over to me, and once I received it, I'd be delighted to talk to them. And I did. I went down to 1 St. Andrews Plaza with a lawyer who had been the chief of the criminal division when I was deputy chief, Tom Fitzpatrick. And on the way into the office, he said to me, Bob, aren't you nervous? I said, what for? I'm going to tell the truth, and I have documentary evidence that corroborates me 6 ways from Sunday. I said, there's nothing to be nervous about. And in fact, I said, I'll bet you $10 I'll have these people laughing within 15 minutes. I won the bet. I went up and I sat with 2 assistant U.S. attorneys, Tom McKay and Nick Rose, as well as 2 FBI agents whose names, unfortunately, I don't remember. We had a grand old time. I explained our entire history with Michael Cohen through emails and text messages. I explained the many, many lies that Michael Cohen told us. Most especially, I told them that when we first met Michael Cohen in April of 2018, keeping in mind now that I read Michael Cohen's testimony from yesterday's trial in New York on the way down on the train, and virtually every statement he made about me was another lie, a lie that can be proven not just by me denying it, but by myself, Jeff Citron, or Rudy Giuliani, or emails or text messages. Virtually every statement that he made. What he tries to do is he picks out, cherry picks certain emails or text messages and tries to make them look like something else.
Yep.
The story he told yesterday was that Rudy Giuliani and I were somehow conspiring to try and keep him quiet, to try and keep him from flipping. That's the term we use in the trade for cooperating. That's ridiculous. The first day that we met with Michael Cohen at the Regency Hotel, at his request, and there's email correspondence that show this, we went up there. I had never met Michael Cohen before. I didn't have any idea who he was or what sort of problem he was in. I saw this guy in a conference room at the Regency Hotel marching back and forth like a tiger in a cage. He was absolutely manic. He looked like he hadn't slept in 4 or 5 days. And he kept on, he knew my partner, Jeff Citron, for 10 years. I didn't know the guy. He kept on pounding on the table throughout his speeches that day. Guys, I want you to know, I will do whatever the F I have to do. I will never spend 1 day in jail.
Hold on. I want to get you guys to remember this point, because if we will have time, instead of ending that early, I'm going to go and read a report on People's Pundit that was, dating back to February 28th of 2019. This report, the source of this report is stone cold. He didn't even bother refuting it, even though the Trumps passed it around to everybody because they knew it was true. He didn't even bother refuting it because we had him dead to rights. And even though the sources didn't want us to name them, he knew from the detailed information that it was correct. And I want to give you a sneak peek into the mind of Michael Cohen and why he does, and he's lying the way he did. And it will explain a lot of the behavior about what Mr. Costello is explaining right now. Okay. It's funny how we could like go back in time and look at these things and look at them in fresh new light, with like almost a fresh pair of eyes. Hindsight's 2020, right? There's always that expression that hindsight is 2020. Wait, let's listen to the rest of his testimony. I know it's kind of long, but bear with it.
He had to say that at least 10 times, maybe 20. It was his constant litany as he walked back and forth. So I said, Michael, sit down. We need to discuss what's going on here. He told us about the raid, that his offices had been raided, his home had been raided. And he said, I didn't do anything wrong, guys. I don't know what they're looking for. And I said, Michael, the people in the Southern District of New York are very smart people. They got a search warrant for a lawyer's office. You can't do that just by going to the U.S. attorney. You need to go to Maine Justice and get approval from Maine Justice. You need to show them that you have proof that a crime has been committed and that the evidence of that crime is going to exist at the site to be examined.
And I'm going to tell you what that was because we knew in 2019. Okay.
I said, so Michael, these people think that you did something wrong. What is it? I said, this is protected by attorney-client privilege, and it was until he waived the attorney-client privilege. I swear to God, Bob, I didn't do anything wrong. In fact, I'm cooperating with the special counsel. I'm cooperating with Congress. Of course, he forgot to tell us that he lied to Congress, but that was part and parcel of the way Michael Cohen is. So I sat him down and I said, look, Michael, clearly here, you're not the target. Nobody's ever heard of Michael Cohen, but you are the lawyer for President Trump. And clearly that's their target. And let me explain to you how things work. When they get a search warrant, they're looking to gather evidence. They already have evidence against you for something, but you haven't told us what it is. And they are going to roll over you. You're just a bump in the road. Their target is Donald Trump. So I want you to think carefully now. And by the way, up to this point, he had told us when he introduced himself to us that 2 nights before, he was on the roof of the hotel, of the Regency Hotel, seriously considering jumping off, committing suicide, because he couldn't handle the pressure of the legal problems that he saw coming his way. And what he wanted to find out from us that day was his escape route. That's what he called it. Guys, you have to tell me what my escape route is. What can I do to get out of this? And I did. My obligation as a lawyer at that point in time was to explain to him what his options were. Clearly, one of his options was to cooperate. And I said to him, I said, Michael, the way this works is if you have truthful information about Donald Trump, that's clearly what they're looking for, I can have all your legal problems solved by the end of the week. His response, I swear to God, Bob, I don't have anything on Donald Trump. I said, Michael, I want you to think carefully about this. I probably came back to this subject 10 or 20 times during the 2-hour period. Every time I brought it up, every time he answered, I swear to God, Bob, I don't have anything on Donald Trump. I said, Michael, whatever you have has to be truthful. If you think you can go in there and tell these people lies, you're crazy. It's going to backfire on you. You can't do that. So do you have anything on Donald Trump? Probably the 5th or the 6th time I got around to doing that, he said, well, I know that money is missing from the Trump inaugural ball. I said, is Donald Trump involved in that? No. Does Donald Trump know anything about that? No. I said, Michael, that's useless. You're not going anywhere with that. You asked me for your escape route. I'm telling you your escape route. All you have to do is be truthful if you have some real evidence on Donald Trump. His litany was the same all the time. I don't have anything on Donald Trump. This is exactly the opposite to what I saw him say on TV. He was telling the grand jury in Manhattan and the district attorney's office. He said, I went in there, I believe, if my memory is correct, 20 times, including 2 appearances in the grand jury, 18 times preparation sessions with the DA's office. I was sitting at home listening to this, and I said, that's nonsense. That's not what he told Jeff Citron and myself.
And hang on, let's just pause that there for a second, okay? I know it's long, but let's pause that there for a second. I want to read you something, okay? And I got to find out what in the Sam hell is going on with this site. Looks like something updated and screwed up all the CSS. Where's my custom fonts that we paid a fortune for? All right. Michael Cohen privately boasted about his role, quote, to get, unquote, Donald Trump. All right. February 28th, 2019. Cohen's hatred for Trump, quote, burns with the fire of 1,000 suns, unquote. All right. You got to remember, he'd gone before Congress. Jim Jordan tore him a new you-know-what. That's when this was. Sources, the first one, listening at home, says to themselves, I cannot believe what I'm listening to. Just like Bob Costello just explained to you, which is why I paused it right then and there. I cannot believe what I'm listening to. And then it begins. The snowball begins. Okay? And eventually, we vet him. We do our homework. It's stone cold. Here we go. Prior to testifying before the House Oversight Committee on Wednesday, Michael Cohen had not been shy about sharing his animus toward Donald Trump. In his opening statement to Congress, he testified the president is, quote, a racist, a con man, unquote, and quote again, and a cheat. He told the committee and the nation, quote, Mr. Trump did not directly tell me to lie to Congress, unquote. And although, quote again, I have lied, unquote, and, quote again, have done bad things, I am not a liar. I am not a bad man. The statement, which critics viewed as a half-hearted attempt to appear redeemed, comports with claims made by several people who have had recent interactions with Mr. Cohen. Last month, one source ran into the president's former lawyer and fixer at Trump Park Avenue, a building in Manhattan where he fittingly owns an apartment. Quote from the source, Michael Cohen hates Trump with a passion. He made it clear he's out to get Trump and blames him for everything. What is that everything? You got to remember the date here. Everything meant both legal and financial woes that marked the now disbarred lawyer's fall from power. The family's 10th floor home, combining 3 units, was put up as collateral on April 22nd, 2018, in exchange for millions of dollars in loans for his troubled taxi business. The bank valued it at $9 million. Bloomberg reported as of March 2018, businesses owned by Mr. Cohen and his wife had owed Sterling National Bank of Montebello upwards of $12.8 million. The loans were secured by New York Taxi Medallion, which lost as much as 80% in value since the debt was extended in 2014. Why? Lyft, Uber, right? Bloomberg attributed the decline exactly to what we were just saying, the market itself. But these days, according to 3 sources who spoke to PPD on the condition of anonymity, Mr. Cohen seemingly blames one person for his misfortune, and that really should say all of his misfortune. Quote, again, his hatred for Trump burns with the fire of 1,000 suns, adding that it's largely unreported but well known Robert Mueller threatened to jail his wife over bank fraud involving the loans to the New York Taxi Medallions. Another source corroborated the legal exposure surrounding Cohen's wife and Mr. Mueller, claiming the special counsel threatened her with 30 years if he didn't cooperate with prosecutors at the Southern District of New York. So the special counsel had grabbed Cohen, said, we're going to throw your wife in jail. We found this stuff if you don't give us Donald Trump. He's over here hating Donald Trump because, and we're going to get to that in a second, but among the many reasons, they investigate some of the stuff he said and find out that it is total lies. The first couple of things Weissman looked into were lies. And Andy, if you were an honest person, you would go on television and say this because you know it's true. So they kick it to the SDNY because, as Costello just said, they, first of all, have their scope, their ability, to investigate everything in this way was limited by the Justice Department. So throwing it to the SDNY could expand the purview of that investigation. So if Michael Cohen had something to offer, it would best be that given to the SDNY. And they didn't think that he was worth the risk because he wasn't credible. So we're not going to ask. We're not going to go back to Rosenthal and ask him to sign an order expanding the purview of the special counsel investigation based on Michael Cohen. He's a liar, and we've already caught him in a lie. It's not worth it to us. We're not going to do it. Let's kick it to the SDNY and let them keep their jurisdiction and do their job. As recently as January, Mr. Cohen privately boasted about his role to take down President Trump. This was just 2 weeks before this article came out, by the way. He's out to get him. Another person who recently exchanged words with Mr. Cohen in Lenox Hill said, "This is a very bitter man, someone who is known for being vicious and vindictive." Unquote. Despite his testimony under oath on Wednesday, Mr. Cohen's about face on his former boss began when he was overlooked for a position in the White House. In his testimony before the committee, he claimed to be fulfilled serving as personal attorney to the President of the United States. When asked by Representative Jim Jordan, Republican from Ohio, if he sought a role in the Trump administration and was bitter when he didn't receive it, Mr. Cohen denied both. That answer was immediately disputed by me. Personally, I'm saying me, because I knew immediately when he said it. Before, obviously, I'm overseeing what we're looking into, but I know from personal accounts that that is false. Okay? So I immediately tweeted this. Michael Cohen just testified under oath that he was content being loyal to the President of the United States. And he wasn't mad when he was not plucked for a job at the White House. Everyone in media knows that is 100% bullshit. That was like, look, you can see there's almost 3,000 likes. The president and his family were retweeting it because they know it's true. What I'm saying is true. That Michael Cohen, that was total fabrication. And the media knew it. The tweet, which refers specifically to his, and this is what I'm doing. I'm referring specifically to the position of the chief of staff. That's what Michael Cohen wanted. And that was confirmed later by CNN and others. Ultimately, President Trump named Reince Priebus, a development that came as no shock to those who know Mr. Cohen. This is what another source told us. He, Cohen, always had the ambition to play a larger role in Trump's circle, but he just never had the talent. Basically, all he's good at is being a bully, a thug. It sounded as if he expected Trump to overlook that, and when he didn't, he felt slighted. Prosecutors for the SDNY also contradicted Mr. Cohen's account in their sentencing memo. Quote, during and after the campaign, Cohen privately told friends and colleagues, including in seized text messages, that he expected to be given a prominent role and title in the new administration. When the SDNY found this information, they said, oh boy, red flag. He can't be a witness. The defense is going to get a hold of this and eat it up. If you're Alvin Bragg and you're a total piece of shit and a dirtbag, what do you care? You don't care about your reputation. You don't really have one. But the people at the Southern District of New York do. Okay? It's different. During and after the campaign, right. The SDNY allowed Mr. Cohen to plead to campaign finance violations involving a $130,000 payment to Stephanie Clifford, the pornographic actress known as Stormy Daniels. Here we are again, right? They wanted this guilty plea on these grounds on the record. Folks, this is nearly 7 years ago. This is 6.5 years ago. Where the hell have they been? Because they got the guilty plea on the record, they looked at the rest of the case, and they decided it's bull, it's nonsense, it's garbage. We cannot bring this case. Alvin Bragg, 6 years later, whoa. It's important to remember all this and keep all of this in context. At the time, they hoped to tie the hush money payment to Mr. Trump, who reimbursed allegedly Mr. Cohen for the payment. In exchange for his cooperation, Mr. Cohen walked on more serious charges of tax evasion and fraud that are unrelated to the president. If found valuable to the SDNY, Mr. Cohen's testimony before the House Oversight Committee could also be construed as cooperation and used to lessen whatever sentencing penalties he may face in the future. Wednesday was supposed to be a win-win for Mr. Cohen and House Democrats. Representative Jordan argued that the hearing was meant to provide a justification for the effort to impeach President Trump, an effort spearheaded and funded by left-wing billionaire Tom Steyer. In 2018, Mr. Steyer made impeachment a litmus test for supporting Democratic congressional candidates financially. Party leaders argued it was a fringe movement during the midterm campaign. Remember that, guys? Do you remember that? Do you remember Nancy Pelosi and at the time Elliot Engel and many others, Steny Hoyer, saying, oh no, Miss Waters, Mr. Steyer, these are fringe movements. We have no intention of impeaching Donald Trump. People forget this stuff. They said she was crazy. Maxine Waters. Well, what happened with Maxine Waters, guys? They made her the chairwoman of the Finance and Banking Committee. But nearly 6 House Democrats voted to advance articles of impeachment back in December. The House voted to table H.R. 646, which didn't receive a single Republican vote. Anyway, on and on and on. Let's get down to it. Lanny Davis, the longtime lawyer for the Clintons, who now represents Mr. Cohen, at the time he was representing him, had supported impeachment for more than a year. Among the stated reasons for the referral were lying under oath, by the way, because the referral is referring to Jim Jordan sending referral to the Justice Department. 6-point referral to prosecute Mr. Cohen. And one of them was lying under oath about his failed bid for a job in the Trump administration and lobbying on behalf of a foreign government in violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Why, per se, folks, was Michael Cohen not charged with those crimes? Right. So he could be the star witness for this trial, which was supposed to be prosecuted by the Southern District of New York, but they ended up passing on it because of everything that we just talked about. And now here we are with Alvin Bragg, who was visited by Biden's number 3 at the Justice Department, who leaves a prestigious job that he worked his, all for, climb the ladder over there, to go be a shadow person on Alvin Bragg's team in a district attorney. Folks, come on. Were you born yesterday? The career prosecutors at the Justice Department wanted nothing to do with this sham case. They were not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole. Why? Because they know it's eventually going to make its way to the Supreme Court. What happened to Andrew Weissman when the Supreme Court unanimously 9-0, when the Supreme Court, the words like rebuked Andrew Weissman and how he conducted himself as a prosecutor on the Arthur Anderson case? He was finished, only to be resurrected in the Trump era, where all sins, prior sins, can be forgiven simply by trying to get Trump. And there you have it. All right, folks. It's Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Don't forget to like the video if you like them and share far and wide. If you're watching on YouTube, we would greatly appreciate it if you mosey on over to Rumble, vice versa. Get her the lot of it. All right. For a minute of your time, you can do wonders for us by subscribing to that channel, by liking that video. It has an enormous difference when you do. All right. Public Polling Project link is in the description. As well, share that far and wide. Let's keep up the momentum. And, of course, a special thank you to our sponsors of today's show, Freedom Gold USA, Tax Relief Helpers, and, of course, our friends at Jam and Bean. All of those links with their discount codes are in the description. All right. Friday it is, folks. Friday it is. Nothing but love for you. A day of victory. On a personal note, Lauren wanted me to thank all of you for hanging with us throughout a period where it was tough to do so. You had to really trust me to follow us and follow me in our work, even with all of that crap, and the smears, the sliming, right? You had to really trust me to continue to stick with me. And that means the world to me and us, not just me, but obviously she's, not just a partner, but my wife in this. So, what happens to me obviously impacts our family. And that's all I can say. I don't know what other words to say, but it's a long journey, and it really does mean the world. And I love you for it. I do. All right. So I will continue to do my best for you. And that's all I can do in exchange as a thank you, as to show the how much we appreciate it. All right, enough of the softy stuff. You know it. I love you. See you on Friday. Don't miss it. And on tonight at 5 p.m., Savage Wednesdays with Sean Parnell, Battleground Live tonight. Don't miss it. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers. Oh, right there. Join us on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com. All right, folks. There's the music. There's the cue. Deuces.